me, man. I feel like we haven't done it.
Yeah, it has been a minute.
You know who we are by now. If you don't, this is the We Trying channel. Also, Nerdy by Nature Productions. We're a lot of different names for a lot of different people.
Well, not also. This is the Nerdy by Nature Productions, and this is the We Trying channel.
Man, if somebody could teach us like SEO and proper search optimization, how to really utilize that, we could be
Nobody,
dangerous.
nobody's going to teach it to us. We got to learn it ourselves. We have to take the fire from the gods and do it ourselves. We got a God of War this shit.
G- Who was the guy that stole the fire? Was it Prometheus?
Yeah, it was. You were
Okay,
correct. Good job.
and then he got killed for that, right? I
Uh,
don't think the gods took too kindly on him taking the
no,
fire and giving it to the people.
he wasn't killed. Was he? Was he the one that was sentenced to roll the boulder uphill?
I can't remember who's Sisyphus.
Um,
I don't know,
I will
man.
say this:
Uh huh.
you not go get black dudes on the internet talking about some Greek tragedies anywhere other than here, and related to SEO.
I don't know that that's true. I won't claim
Hey,
that.
if you find another channel with two black dudes is talking Greek mythology
Hold on one
in
second.
relation
Let me.
in
My camera's
relation
subscribing.
to
Go ahead. Uh huh.
in relation to the nerd world and the Microsoft leak, you let me know because I'm gonna give them a follow.
All right. There we go. Fair enough. Yeah. I don't know what we're calling this. It's not necessarily a press play. It's just us talking about the big news from Microsoft, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to headline it. It is just a wild situation that all stemmed from Microsoft trying to buy Activision Blizzard.
I call this Microsoft steps on a rake again.
And I am of two minds of that. I do think they kind of stepped on a rake, and that
Mhm.
it could have been much worse because the stuff that came out, nothing has been like damning, right? They're like, oh my God, Microsoft is planning this. I can't believe that. And it's nothing like no type of bad mouth emails. And I think
No,
that
no,
not that they
no.
would have any, but that
Oh, they
those have
got some.
definitely been leaks that have happened to
Oh,
other companies where they like were shit talking people.
I think you're right on that, but I do think there is some damning things that came out of this in the sense of it depends on your perspective and how you look at stuff. And I think this leak was not as big considering it comes out of the fact that Microsoft won. So if Microsoft hadn't had won their FTC battle, if they hadn't won the right to buy Activision, I think this would have been damning
Yeah.
because then everybody would have looked at it and been like, see, but now that they get Activision, it's like, oh, they just stepped on a rake and it's funny, ha ha ha, Microsoft, but they still spent $70 billion and they got Activision.
Yeah.
I think the damning thing that's going to come out, and we'll talk about it later to me, is the leaks about the future of gaming.
Hmm.
And I'm of one mind, and I've always been on this mindset, and we'll get to it later, where I am very upset where no
Physical.
one is. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we'll get
I
to it.
am
We're in agreement on
I'm
that.
I'm very upset about that because it seems to me that no one is screaming, this cannot stand. And I think
Man, I
I
tell you,
think
man, I feel like we are. I don't mean to cut you off for a second. I feel like we're old men, and we're getting left behind. I feel like more and more people are like digital all the way.
and the problem with that is, and there's so many different reasons for someone to say, okay, I'm going to go physical or I'm going to go digital. Depend on your preference. The problem that I have with it is the cheerleading for digital and the disrespect against physical and not understanding what losing physical means in commerce, in the preservation of art, and the preservation of gaming history. I think those things are not being talked about enough. And we're just talking about, oh, I can just download stuff. And I think a lot of that comes from the whole idea that we have not really addressed in gaming rural versus urban communities.
Hmm.
And I think that is a big problem that a lot of this media is driven by people in large media markets. So of course they have the great internet, they have fiber, they have 5G. We're both in Columbia, South Carolina. During the pandemic, we saw the detriment of not having being connected to the internet.
Hmm.
And I think in gaming, there all these people who sit in these huge major markets, whether it be in California, whether it be in New York, whether it be DC, Atlanta, they have access to the internet like that,
Hmm.
whereas we don't, and that dictates how you game. So I'm real. I'm a real. We can get that later. We can talk about the game stuff and all the other stuff. But I'm about to be on my soapbox.
Okay. So what we're going to do, there are a bunch of different documents and leaks that came out.
Mhm.
Um, and I figured the best way we could do it is kind of just tackle them a little one by one. What we're going
Okay.
to use is an IGN article. It was put together by Taylor Lyles, but again, Taylor Lyles pulled kind of all the articles that IGN had done. So we're kind of just using this as a jumping off point to talk about different
Yep.
leaks that came out.
Mhm.
So we'll just go down the line here. The first one Taylor wrote or highlighted is the Elder Scrolls 6 is an Xbox console exclusive. Are we surprised by that? I don't know. I don't know if I would be surprised by that.
I I'm not, but this is one of the things where I say I told you so. And I'm not
You
saying
did.
you.
You
Yeah.
can't say me because I think when we were talking this, I was like, they wouldn't make it exclusive because it's been
And
everywhere.
uh-huh. And I said, what would the purpose of buying ZeniMax and Bethesda be if you put it on every platform? And the reason why I bring that up is because this was the argument that Sony made against the Activision deal, where if and this is why I said if this leak had come out before the deal, or if this leak had happened if the deal didn't go through, everybody would have pointed to it and been like, see. But now they got Activision, and everybody's like, ah. But
Well,
right
they're
here,
in the process of getting Activision.
they go get Activision.
I'm just keeping it 100.
I mean, and you're right. Journalistically, it's still in the process. They still have to get over certain things. They still got to the UK, not the UK. Yeah, the UK has to
I feel like
approve.
everybody is on board now, and like the last people
Mhm.
that weren't are finally they're just like fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah,
I think now
but
it's just like an official thing of
yeah, it
I
was the
think maybe it happens in
colonizers.
October.
It was the colonizers. It was us, and it was the UK. Yeah.
Thank you with your Malcolm X T-shirt on. Yes.
Oh,
Um,
I'm fired up tonight, sir. I am. I'm like, because we've been gone for so long, and just been seeing thing after thing after thing about this,
uh-huh.
and I am so upset because it's like I feel like I feel like Don Quixote. I really do. I feel like I'm tilting at windmills because I'm like, everything is going digital only, and everybody's like, oh yeah, the Activision deal is great, and I'm like, we've been trying to warn you about this. Microsoft is not your friend; it's a business. They're in it to make money.
Sure.
So the fact that they bought ZeniMax to get Bethesda, and we'll get to this part later, to fill the hole that they had in first party titles,
Hmm.
this is one of the first steps. Elder Scrolls 6 is probably going to be an Xbox console exclusive day and date on Game Pass whenever that happens. And
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it. I understand business wise, but when you are a company the size of Microsoft and you spend over $100 billion for studios, you're not doing it to help your competitor out. You're
Hmm.
doing it so that you can make this exclusive, so that you can get people into your ecosphere. Like
Yeah.
you said, Game Pass.
Yeah. I'm curious if Microsoft is ever, aside from Minecraft, because Minecraft is so big, that'll always be. I think that'll always be everywhere, just because they got hundreds of millions of people playing it everywhere. So I don't think that'll ever go exclusive, even though Microsoft owns the company. I'm wondering if any of these things that Microsoft has purchased, if they're ever going to let stuff be third party or be on other consoles. Like I know Call of Duty is for at least 10 years, right? That's what the contract was supposed to be, at
Yep.
least 10
Mhm.
years. I'm wondering if beyond that they're going to be like, you've had 10 years, you need to do something else. Now it's only going to be Game Pass and Xbox. I'm wondering.
I will say this, depending on what PlayStation does, I could see Elder Scrolls after a few years coming to PlayStation like 5, 6 years after it was been on Game Pass, after it's made its run,
Hmm.
Sony inks a deal and is like, okay, we'll bring it over to PlayStation, whatever this next gen console is, halfway through the life cycle. I could see that, and because we've seen this with other games, we've seen this with games previously on the Xbox and from Microsoft, whether it be Lost Planet, um, what is it? I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, I'm blanking out right now, and it's right there on the tip of my tongue. But like we've seen some of these games, Mass Effect.
Hmm.
We've seen some of these games where they started out on a Microsoft platform, and we did see them. The only one we haven't seen is Sunset Overdrive, and
Yeah, I feel like Microsoft owns. I think that's the part of the reason why they never did a sequel, because even though it's made by
Mhm.
Insomniac, Microsoft owns
Yep.
all the rights.
And so like at the end of the day, I could see that one coming out.
Hmm.
I really could, but I, this right here is what I was warning against, that they didn't buy ZeniMax for $10 billion to put every one of those games on Sony consoles. They
Hmm.
bought it to make it exclusive, to keep it on a Microsoft platform, to basically bolster your argument that we're going to make Game Pass ubiquitous everywhere. Because here's the thing, watch this, and you called it, and I didn't believe it until the iPhone 15 press release came out and the drop of that phone.
Hmm.
Game Pass is going to be offered on the Apple Store,
Let's
and
get
you
it everywhere.
and take a bow,
That's what.
because when it happens, it's coming to the Apple Store, because they don't care if you buy the console. They want you to buy the app,
Yeah,
and they want that app to be everywhere, because if you get the app, it gets you in the ecosphere. And then hopefully what they're hoping to do is, like a dealer, I get you hooked on this hyper pure stuff, and then I stomp down the drug and get you in my ecosphere, and I get you to buy some consoles.
sure, sure. I mean, this show. We go off the roads all the time, so we'll talk about all this stuff. Before we started the show, we were talking about Jim Ryan stepping down next year, and one of the rumors is with him stepping down, maybe Game Pass will finally be on PlayStation, which would be interesting.
I
I don't know.
mean, I, I'm gonna say this, not now, but I could see it in 5 years. I could see it in 5 years when they roll out whatever the next, excuse me, PlayStation 6 is,
Hmm.
where you're like, okay, your consoles are basically virtually the same, and it's just the apps now. Um, you have made me a believer in it, because even though I was a Sony guy for so long, when I had the Xbox and it was up and running, I saw the value of Game Pass, and I was like, oh, this is dangerous. And this is before they bought all of these studios. And I saw the benefit of Game Pass, because in the day of inflation, in the day of $70 games, Game Pass is a bargain.
Yeah,
Even at $20, even if they raise the price to $25 a month, Game Pass is a bargain for all the first party titles that will come day and date release. $25 is still a bargain.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Next topic, our next article here listed: Activision was briefed on Switch successor late last year, which I feel like that kind of makes sense. I mean, they've been talking about a new Switch console, whatever it's going to be, a Switch 2 or
Mhm.
Super Switch for the longest time. I think the latest rumor is it may be released second half of next year or something like that. So to me,
Yeah.
it makes sense that Activision had seen whatever the new Switch is going to be. I think the bigger thing is the fact that Activision had seen it, and we know that Nintendo or Microsoft and Sony don't play well together, but Microsoft and Nintendo play pretty well together. We've seen
Mhm.
a bunch of like Xbox games be on the Switch. I think Ori was on the Switch, and there's a couple other ones.
Yeah.
Microsoft like published games that are on Switch, and we know those in tweets the companies go back and forth about them working well together. I'm wondering what that means if we could see Game Pass on like the Switch successor.
I would say no.
Why?
only because Nintendo is notorious about keeping everything in house, and their ecosphere is we can't. Here's the thing: having Game Pass on the Switch doesn't get you to buy then all the installations of Mario, because if you have all this other stuff you could play, you're not going to buy every Mario that we can sell you.
Hmm.
It goes back to that whole thing that you talked about, the remake syndrome. If Nintendo keeps everything siloed, that this is Nintendo, yeah, you can have some third party games that comes over here. We've seen The Witcher, we've seen Call of Duty, the Inca Call of Duty deal with Activision. Yeah, you can get some of those popular games, and you can get some crappy games like Microsoft, not Microsoft, Mortal Kombat One. You can get some crappy games
Yeah.
on there, but the idea of what Nintendo is selling you is we're selling you Nintendo stuff,
Hmm.
and Nintendo can't sell you Nintendo stuff if you have this great deal of Game Pass where I just pay $20 a month and I have all of these cool games that I can take on the go.
Yeah, but you don't have Nintendo games in Game Pass.
True, but at the end of the day, I would think, and this is just my opinion, because and I think what we need to do also is differentiate between what we were speculating. I'm speculating putting Game Pass on a Switch would undercut that Nintendo e-store,
Okay.
because if because for the casual fan, if I have this whole list of stuff that I could play
Hmm.
on Game Pass, I ain't buying Nintendo shit.
Okay.
Because you have always said Nintendo does not mark down stuff. They
Yeah,
are
it takes a while for stuff. The biggest deal they have going on right now is, which is a great deal because they don't mark down stuff, is I think you can get any two new Nintendo games for $100, which is essentially $50 a piece. Um, which is nice when games cost 60 and 70 now. Essentially, you can get like Breath
true,
of the
true.
Wild and whatever, like the new Mario game. It's $100 for both of them.
Odyssey.
No, the one beyond that, Mario Wonder coming out later
Oh,
this
okay.
year.
Yeah. So like, and that's what I'm saying. So like, if you, I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't buy those games because if I had a Switch, I would. But the idea of I could put that off if I could play Starfield on my Switch. You see what I'm saying? Like I could I could hold out on buying the next new Mario or whatever that game is if I had all of these games that comes with, because remember on and sorry, I don't have to tell you this. Tell us what some of the games that are on Game Pass right now.
A game that I just finished up recently was Sea of Stars, which is an old school
Mm-hmm.
homage to JRPGs like Chrono Trigger, Final
Chrono
Fantasy, all this
Trigger,
other
yep.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What else is? I mean, I think the whole Yakuza series might be on there now. I think I might take it off Wrath of like a Dragon, but all the other ones are on there.
Persona.
Persona 3, 4, and 5 are on
Mm-hmm.
there.
See?
Um, so I mean, they're doing really big things. They're trying to get that stuff on there. All Microsoft first party stuff is on there. Um, I think is Cyberpunk on there? No, no, I just got that for the having the other system. But
Yeah, so
I mean,
so
it's
like you so you got games like Outer Wilds or no
mhm.
Outer
I think
Worlds, and
both
then
of them
you
might
got
actually be on there,
so
Wilds
then
and
and then
Worlds.
then you have what's where's Edith Finch?
What remains of Edith
Um
Finch?
what runs Edith Finch? So like all of these little indie games that Nintendo would normally be able to sell you
Hmm.
for 20 to 30 bucks, that's free on Game Pass. I think that so I back to the original point. I do understand why they were able to see what was coming out on the Switch as or Switch 2 and see how that works. But I don't think Game Pass would come to the Switch, only because Nintendo would, in my opinion, would lose out on money, and it would cripple some of their sales, because why would I buy this thing for 50 bucks? For 20 bucks, I have 100 games I could play.
Hmm.
So that's just me, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong before.
Commenters, let us know. Even if you were able to get Game Pass on Nintendo Switch, would you still buy those first party Nintendo exclusives on
Nope.
The Switch Pro? Let us know. I
Nope.
would, but that's me.
But hold on. But you've already acknowledged and admitted to being bad with money, so you kind of don't count.
I don't think that's a bad with money thing. I think that's just me wanting to play Nintendo games. Like, the only way I can play
See
them
that,
is on the Switch.
yeah. So I'm like you don't count because you're already in the ecosphere. What's the next one? What's the next one? Let's move on to the
All right,
second
next
one
one
or
here
the third one.
is Microsoft is planning to release updated Xbox Series X and Series and S models next year.
So the new Xbox Series X, codenamed Brooklyn,
Hmm.
is more compact than the original model, and like the Series X, lacks a disk drive. We'll get to that later. I'm looking at the pictures. Um,
And I think the interesting thing about it is smaller. So it's not that it's a more powerful Series X; it's just smaller.
and it,
So
you know what it looks
it's
like?
not like a Xbox Pro or
Hmm.
whatever.
And it doesn't look like a video game console.
No, it doesn't.
You know what it looks like?
I mean, there's like something like a Apple something or like an
Hmm.
Amazon something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. What is it? Echo? Is that like the cylinder thing? Amazon Echo?
The Echo is the ball.
Okay.
This one looks like, in my opinion, Alexa. No, it look no, sorry. It looks like the Echo Dot. Sorry, the Echo second generation, the cylinder,
Hmm.
the Echo. Because so there's the Echo Dot, and then there's the Echo second generation that looks like a Bluetooth speaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
I can
really
see that.
does. And I for one, I don't. How do I say this? Remember when Microsoft had that when they announced the one of the Xboxes was supposed to be, it's not just a game console, it's for everything else. It's going to be your hub.
Yeah,
That's
during
what
and that was the Xbox One
that's what
after the
this is.
360. Yeah.
That's what this is. This fulfills that dream, that promise. This Xbox Series X refresh, this all digital, because I would wager they're going to incorporate. Remember when they tried to make Xbox voice activated and you could say Xbox on?
Yeah, I mean, you
I
can
would
still do
wager.
that.
Yeah, but walk me through how you have to do that.
I mean, I don't know. I don't do it, but I know it's
But
still
I
there.
it's still there. And remember on the not this generation, the generation before, you had to have the
The Connect.
camera. Yeah,
Yeah.
you had to connect.
Mhm.
I would wager this one does it without any of that. I would wager that
Oh,
this one.
for sure. Yeah, they're done with the Connect. They buried that, unfortunately.
So what I'm saying is, I would wager that this one, the refresh on the S and X models, they're going to market this as a home entertainment system that plays games. This is going to have all of your apps. It's going to have like it's basically because it looks just like that Echo
Hmm.
where it's voice activated. It's going to incorporate all of these cool features. To me, when I see that, I don't see a game console. I see the next Alexa, Echo, Siri type device. That's what I see when I see this.
Now, what's interesting to me is that this is going to be the same price as the current Xbox Series X,
Did you
499.
th- did you think Microsoft was gonna give you a discount?
No, no, no. What I'm saying is it's the same price
Yep.
without the disk drive, but it does come
Keep
with
going.
more. But it does come with more internal storage.
2 terabyte.
What I'm trying to figure out is, are they going to phase out the current Series X? Or are they going to have both models? Because we don't have
Yes.
an email that says
Yes.
what's going to happen to the old Series
Yes.
X.
Yes.
Yes to what?
And here's my speculation. Yes to what you just said to both. I think they're going to phase out that disk drive model for a while. But at one point in time, and it's going to be a very small window, that Xbox Series X with the optical drive and the digital only are going to be sold at the same time. It's going to be a very small window, and then as they phase out that optical drive, that digital only is going to be the same price, and in the secondhand market, the one with the optical drive is going to start going up.
Hmm.
That secondhand market, scalpers, and everybody and their mama is going to start buying that disk drive Xbox, and it's going that price is going to start rising.
Hmm.
And because because I think what's going to happen is as they start getting closer and closer to a digital only ecosphere, more and more people are going to wake up to the fact of, oh, you can't put disk in this other thing. And that's what's going to happen. And I think what you're going to start seeing is the Nintendo effect. What we've seen in the past with Nintendo's consoles, when they start going to that next generation console, and after a while, you can buy those early Nintendo consoles for cheap. And then what happens to those consoles after a few years? What happens to that price in the secondhand market?
Stuff goes up.
Yep. How much is a Nintendo Wii U?
Now I don't know.
It is cheaper to get a Wii than it is to get a Wii U.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I think the retro gaming market, because what's going to happen is that think about this for a second. That next gen console is going to end up being in the retro gaming market because if all this holds true, Microsoft is going to move into a digital only ecosphere. And with that being said, and we can get into it now or we can save this for later because like I said, I'm ready either way. This kills the secondary market for gaming. This kills video game preservation, in my opinion. This
Why did you say it kills video game preservation?
because how do you preserve something that's digital only?
I mean, you just save it.
How? Because watch
It's
this. I
it's
can be.
on, huh?
It's where
It's on servers.
it's on servers for a what? An online only connection.
Not
And
necessarily. Not. I think it's
you
just
hold
on
you
servers
sit,
until they decide to cut the server off.
there you go. And here's my question: how long do they keep that server running? And
Who
and and
knows?
once again, and this is my problem with it because how many times have we seen games go up and a few years goes by and they're like, you know what? Here's a refresh. The old game is out. You got to
Hmm.
buy the remastered new game. I don't know, like Ark. You remember that? Ark Ark 2's coming out. People are still playing the first Ark, and in order to get this new mastered Ark, if you cannot play the old Ark anymore, you have to buy the new Ark, and that is one of the things you're going to start
Well,
seeing more of.
elaborate on that. Do you mean like Arc One no longer works, or are you saying that people can still play Arc One, but if they want the features, they got to go to Arc Two?
They got to buy the new Ark. The new Ark evolved, survival evolved, and then hold on, let me make sure I'm getting this right. Uh, Here it is. Now they backtrack only because, and I don't know if you remember this. So the developers behind the Ark franchise have recently backtracked on their decision to offer Ark Survival Ascended as part of Ark 2 bundle for Xbox. Studio Wildcard decided to give up these plans after receiving rather negative feedback from the Ark Survival community. Ark fans have been in uproar lately as Studio Wildcard announced that it would shut down the servers for Ark Survival Evolved, and players would need to purchase a new upgrade to keep playing.
Okay, gotcha.
And so now they backtracked on this, but this was the plan for the game. And I speculate this is going to be something we see going forward in the digital sphere. Things like this. And we saw what happened with Unity. and their game engine,
Hmm.
and developers like, wait, what? I think in this digital only future that we're going to, you're going to start seeing some things. And these people, these companies have reversed course because of fan outrage. But that's not going to keep stopping them from trying to nickel and dime people as the cost of everything goes up. And again, in this digital marketplace without secondhand market, you can't go and pick up a game that you want to try at a GameStop, or for us, a Scratch and Spin, or one of these secondhand stores that we have here in Columbia, South Carolina. You got to go to the digital marketplace. And we know for a fact Sony's been sued for the digital marketplace. I don't see the digital marketplace being like a Steam. Now, if it was like a Steam and you had all these other secondary marketplaces like GOG for PC gaming, because PC gaming has been digital for a while. I'm not saying it can't work, but I don't see these huge sales that Steam offers. Steam has seasons where they have sales.
Hmm.
Um, Matter of fact, that's why I got No Man's Sky for, I think I paid $15 to $20 for it. Um, what do you think the price is going to be in these digital marketplaces when you cannot buy a physical copy, or when you have a third party um, store like a Target, a Walmart, a Best Buy, who has these deals and sales going on for a physical copy?
Here's what I Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of times you're going to see. I'm wondering what it does, like logistically, to overall like physical retail space. Because
Hmm.
if you're not going to have a spot for a physical game, does that shrink the window? Because I personally am a fan of going into a game store or even an electronic store and seeing their game section, just seeing like the spine of all the games and stuff. I imagine I feel like it would be the same with like when you go to a library and you like see a spine or a shelf full of books.
But here's the thing: as much as you like it, gaming has been pushing. Each of these markets have been pushing towards a digital only
Sure.
platform for years.
Hmm.
Whether it's music, whether it's music, whether it's television, whether it's movies and video games, they've all been pushing for that, because if you go and you have a digital copy, we control that copy.
Hmm.
Say whatever you want to say. Oh no, it kills up space and it's better for the environment. No, it doesn't. I'm calling BS, because in order to host that physical copy, you own it. Yes, right here, you own it. But to host that digital copy, it has to live somewhere. It has to live on a server. And that server has to generate power in order for you to play it. It's not a downloaded copy for you to have. It has to live somewhere. And if that company either goes under or decides it is cost effective for us not to keep this and get rid of it, they will. Doesn't matter if you paid full price for that thing, it's gone. We've seen it with streaming services. We're literally seeing with streaming services. We've seen it with video games. When a marketplace decides this game is not up to our standards, or we just don't want to sell it. Cyberpunk. Sony pulled Cyberpunk off of its digital marketplace. What's to say for them to pull a game off of the marketplace that does not meet whatever fees they require from that gaming company or that developer?
I think the big thing we got to figure out is, do we have a case of where that's happened so far? Because in Cyberpunk's case, it was because the game ran like trash.
Yes, but that is not the only game that is run like trash, but that is the only game we can remember that was pulled off the marketplace.
Right. What
We've
I'm
had
saying
get
is,
we,
do we have
we've
games
had
that are good and those get pulled from stores?
we don't know that,
That's what I'm
because
saying. I guess what I'm saying is,
and
I
what
feel
I'm
like
saying
that
is
would be stronger to your case.
what I'm saying is we don't know that because we're relying on the developer to tell us that this happened, and the console maker and the marketplace to tell us that. And right now they've been able to release their games physically, so that's never been a problem before.
Hmm.
So what I'm saying is we're now going to be relying on the truthfulness of Microsoft's micro marketplace and Sony's PlayStation, whatever, to give us accurate data and to be truthful about sales of games and all. And see what I'm saying? And ooh, how do I say this? I know it's apple and oranges. I know the streaming services are not the same, but we know for a fact we don't have streaming data from any of the big major companies because that was what the whole strike was about.
Hmm.
So now you go into a digital only ecosphere for these games. Yes, the gaming companies have a vested interest in keeping the digital marketplace, whoever owns that, happy, which means there are only two places for that digital marketplace, Microsoft and Sony, if they go digital only. Right now, we're only talking about Microsoft. So Microsoft is a $2 trillion company, at least. We have seen them spend $100 billion for first party studios in their own ecosphere. What I'm saying is, we don't know the ramifications going forward for a digital only gaming community. And the people who are championing this are the same people who were like, oh, online only. Remember that? Remember when we were all up in arms about online only and you had to have an online connection to play just a single player game?
Hmm.
Those same people, for some reason, all of a sudden have decided, oh no, digital only, that's great. The marketplace, oh no, the people who buy physical games, that's a niche market. Really? Let's look at music. Right now, um, I'm pulling up right now. Uh, March 13th from the BBC, vinyl records outsell CD for the first time in decades. Vinyl record sales outperformed CDs in the US for the first time since 1987, according to a new report. Just over 41 million vinyl records were sold in 2022 to the tune of $1.2 billion. Only 33 million CDs were sold, amounting to 483 million. Now, I'm not saying that streaming is not a part of this. Streaming still is king, but still being able to buy a physical copy of of your music is very important
Sure, sure. I
because
think that,
you own it.
yeah, I think the issue is, as big as those numbers are, they're still a small comparison compared to all the digital streams and downloads that people do. And I don't feel like there's a way to show people, like, how do you boycott somebody going digital? Because if you don't buy the digital, you buy the physical, and there isn't a physical. Like, how do you show them you're upset and that you want physical if
I,
they're
I
not doing it
honestly,
anyway?
I honestly don't know. Like I'm gonna tell you right now, um, I honestly don't know, and I'm perplexed on what the next step is. And the reason why I bring this up is because, so perfect example, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, right? This is Modern Warfare 2. I picked it up at Scratch and Spin. It was secondhand. I still have now. I played Modern Warfare, but this was a gift. I played Modern Warfare. I think I got it from Redbox when Redbox was still renting games. Um, I haven't gone back and played it, but I'm waiting for them to finish the trilogy, and I'm just gonna like play all three of them together. I don't care about online play when it comes to Call of Duty. I'm only in it for the campaign because I love the campaigns. I still have the all of the originals on every console. Um, I know I'm a weirdo where I would break out the PS3 to play those three games, and then when the PS4 versions came out, I did buy them, and they were. But what I'm saying is, what happens if you don't have a game that is that popular and will not get remastered? How do you play that game? Because remember when, and you probably know this better than I do. Remember when they were going to pull the Vita store?
Hmm.
Explain what happened with that. Do you remember everything like how that went down?
I mean, I think they just said they were going to kill your option to buy beta games at some
Hmm.
point. I can't remember what the date was. People got upset, and then they extended the date. But I still think they're going to kill it, right? Like they're going to kill it. They just moved the date longer.
I I'm of the mindset of I understand that it is expensive to host all of these games digitally. But that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. That if a video game company goes under, the video game company decides I don't want to pay for X amount of people to play this game because profit wise, it doesn't make me money. Well, how do we keep that game? And for video game preservation for us going forward as a society, and I hate to say this as an old nigga on this channel, as a society, we have to keep art and we have to keep because here's the thing, we're up against the entire world when it comes to video games are art. We still are not at that point yet where people are appreciating video games for what they are. Hip hop is 50 years old. You and I both know we still have to fight people about that hip hop is a genre of music.
Hmm. The all right, so I saw an article on The Verge from 2021. I think the original story was PlayStation was going to close the PS3, the Vita, and the PSP stores.
Yes. Hmm. I,
People got
I remember that.
upset and they changed. So PS3 and Vita stores are still open. The PSP store is
Yes.
closed.
Yes.
Um, but from what I hear, it's kind of hard to download and buy games still from PS3 and Vita. It's not like easy way to find the
It
store.
is not.
Yeah.
And that's why I scour whenever I see a Vita. So like perfect example. How many times have we gone someplace to a show or a convention? What's the first thing I ask? You got any Vita games?
Yeah.
And they're like, nope. Oh, I gotta bring them. I gotta. And so I bring all of this up because I think we are not understanding what that next phase is going to look like. And then, two, I think a lot of people championing this digital only ecosphere that people are talking about are people who live in these major markets. They're not thinking about the people who live in Camden, South Carolina, who
Hmm.
have to download Starfield
Hmm.
on the not best connection. They're not thinking of people who live in Orangeburg, South Carolina, which
Sure.
is 45 minutes from Columbia, which is the capital city in South Carolina. They're not thinking of those things. How big was the Starfield download for you?
I think everything was probably 100 gigs, maybe.
How long did it take you to download?
It was an all day affair. Now, to be fair, I mean, I guess it kind of goes to the point. I only have so much bandwidth capability to download something, so I couldn't do other stuff while I was downloading. If I had just, like, I guess, been a hermit and not done anything on the internet, it would have downloaded
Mhm.
faster. But it was essentially, I downloaded it all day before I could play it, more or less.
Now watch this. You live with you and one other person in your house. You're not a husband or a mother of two or three kids, which you have six or seven devices, and that's what I'm trying to get people to understand.
Hmm.
When you have a digital only ecosphere and you have other people in the house, other people using the Wi-Fi, other people using this internet, and you don't have access to fiber, it's
Yeah.
like and these games are only getting bigger and they're only getting more and more expensive. And I'm like, y'all don't see where this is going. You're trusting the company to provide you with a game that works, that's going to download on time, or whenever you buy this code. I just don't see this ending well for the gamer. I
Hmm.
don't see it ending well for the consumer. I see it ending well for the big major corporation. I just don't see it ending well for us. I don't see it ending well for us as far as like video game preservation. I don't see it ending well for us as a consumer as far as buying games because unlike Steam, I have bought a few games that were a pretty decent price. That's how I bought Control. I love Control. But if there's no other place to buy that game, does Control go on sale the way it did?
Who knows?
And that's the question that I have for these people who are like, "Oh no, it should be digital only." So I'm I'm very upset about this, but I feel like the old man screaming, tilting at windmills now because there's nobody else. with me
Yeah.
fighting this fight. Mhm.
I don't know what the sales are for PlayStation, the disc version versus the discless version, but I do know another email that's not part of this batch of here that's listed here, but it did come out. Microsoft said like 75% of the series consoles were digital, were the S version and not the X version. So they definitely sell more of the digital only version. So people are definitely buying
And here's
those.
the thing, that's a lower powered console compared to the disc version.
Hmm.
And that's been a problem for certain developers going back to that refresh of because that was what the holdup for Baldur's Gate was.
Hmm.
Remember?
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate not coming because they couldn't get it on the Series S.
Yeah.
So I'm we should move on because I'm physically hurt.
Okay.
I'm
And the
physically affected.
Fallout 3 and the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion are getting remastered.
And remember, according to this article, they were supposed to come out last year,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, all
and
these
we have not.
emails are from like 2 years ago at least.
Mhm.
So
And we have not heard, and neither one of those were announced.
yeah, not yet. Um, I think Jason Schreier had some reports saying that he had heard at least one of these was in
Friend of
was
the show.
yeah, friend of the show, Jason Schreier, had heard that one of these was in the works, but hadn't done any official reporting on it yet because he didn't have all his sources, I think, lined up like he wanted.
Now, here's the thing. I like the fact that this. So here's from the article. It says one of the many documents leaked online this week included a 3-year document from Bethesda's release schedule prior to Microsoft acquisition. Um, Remasters for Elder Scrolls 4, Oblivion, and Fallout 3. Other information included the fact that Starfield was forecasted to generate $900 million in revenue. I would love to see if that number holds up. But the thing that I think is interesting, because going back, which I find, I would have said no. But if those two games showed up on Game Pass, and those two games were on Game Pass when it's announced on an iPhone in the Apple Store,
Hmm.
I could see that being doing gangbusters financially
Sure,
for Microsoft because those are two of the most celebrated Bethesda games.
people do like them.
Um, a bl-
Yeah,
So I think I find it interesting that we still haven't seen them or heard anything about it. I think it's interesting that it's because here's the thing. Now you talk about something being on Switch, those two could run really well on Switch.
well,
And a Switch.
who knows if the
Go ahead.
remastered versions would run well on Switch?
I think they would on whatever the Super Switch
Oh,
they
you're
got
talking about
coming
the new
out. I
Switch,
think it would.
not the current Switch.
I, th- I think it would. I think if you drop one of those, both of those games on a Switch 2 or a Super Switch, whatever they want to call it, next year, and you pair and you say, hey, available on Game Pass, available on PlayStation, available on Switch.
I think
Oh yeah.
well, I think the question is, are these remasters going to be for sale on a Nintendo console and a PlayStation console, or will they only be part of Game Pass?
Well, good question. Good question. I don't know.
Because I feel like in that case that might be something where you do release it everywhere, just because people are already used to it being on their system and it's a remaster.
Mhm.
I feel like that's how you would
Okay,
get away with that, and then also put it on Game Pass. I don't know.
that makes sense. I mean, that's a very good point. I don't know. This is the one I found very
Hmm.
interesting. X moving on. Xbox is planning to release a next gen Xbox console in 2028.
Hmm.
I'm going to say no.
You don't think that's happening anymore?
No. The only reason why is because I think the pandemic changed this gaming cycle
Sure.
because we're still finding games that are right now we're supposed to be in the current gen, which is PlayStation 5, Xbox Series
Hmm.
X. We have just now gotten to a point this year where you can go into a store and say, I want to buy one of these consoles.
Hmm.
These consoles came out when?
2020, I think.
hmm So we're just now getting to a point where everybody can afford or buy these consoles. And the console prices are going up.
Hmm.
We've seen that in the next year, starting this year and the next year, these console prices are going up with inflation. Everything is going up. I think developers are still trying to grapple with how to make games for this current generation. And with the past generation still trying to dip in their toe into that water and still trying to make money off of that 100 million
PS4.
pool that place, yep, that PS4 has, and however many Xboxes that people have.
Yeah.
I think 2028 is too soon. And just in my opinion, I think because we talked about all of these different features that are supposedly next gen, ray tracing, 8K, all of this stuff. How many games actually use that? How many games have actually maxed out the potential of both of these
Oh yeah,
consoles?
I don't think we've seen that yet. I think the big thing is for me, I s- it seems like what this generation will be known for, defined as why it was a new generation, is loading times seems to be a big thing now, which is
Mhm.
nice because if something's near instantaneous loading, it is almost like you never have to load anything, which is great. On PS5, that's incredible. Xbox is pretty fast too, but I still feel like PS5 might be a little bit faster. Um, and supposedly 4K and 60 FPS, which
Mhm.
usually it's either 4K and 30 FPS or 1080p and 60 FPS. It's not every game has a standard 4K 60 FPS mode in consoles. You can get that on PC.
Redfall.
Yeah, I don't know what that. Yeah,
Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
but I mean
I didn't.
that's a great example, right? Where they thought, oh yeah, we're going to get this 4K 60 FPS, and they had so many other issues to worry about with the game. I know they're working on that for a patch, but who knows when that's going to
But again, that game came out. It was $70.
happen.
You tried to sell us a $70 game that was broken on release, and you knew it was broken on release, and it is a next gen game. And that's what I'm saying. You and in what is 2023, in 5 years, you want to do a another next gen console? People are having a hard time grappling with how to make games that function properly on this generation.
Sure.
And I think this console generation suffered from the fact that the pandemic kept everybody at home. All these releases got pushed back. Right now, look at all the games that got delayed or pushed back. We still don't have Justice League. Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. Redfall was a disaster. Jedi Survivor, even though a lot of people raved about it, it had serious issues when it came
Hmm.
out. You're looking at um, uh, hell, Cyberpunk.
Hmm.
Let's not even like they're just now with Phantom Liberty talking about how well, hey, this might have fixed Cyberpunk, and it's like this game has been out for almost 2 years.
Yeah, and remember that
So
that
like,
was they had talked about it released on PS4 and Xbox One initially, and then got the new
mhm.
console, the next gen upgrade or whatever. So yeah,
And so like, I I'm I'm very skeptical of a 2028 release of a next gen console. Now, granted, that's 5 years from now. A lot can change. In the next 2 to 3 years, they could come out with gangbusters and be like, we did it. But let's be honest, PS5 is a PS5, which is a very hold on, let me take it back. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to be on 2 discs.
hmm.
How you go next gen that in 5 years?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question or understand your statement.
So so Final Fantasy VII is going to be probably what, 6 discs total? Because each game has come out on 2 discs, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Two, so it's come out on 2 discs. So 6 discs. They've been what, 2 years apart?
No, with this one coming out, I think it would have been 3 years because Rebirth
So
is
then,
2024. I think remake was 2020. Oh, so 4 years.
okay, okay, I thought remake was 21.
No,
Sorry. Okay. So whatever comes out after Rebirth, you think 2 or 3 years?
I think read the new the third of the trilogy could come out 3 years after Rebirth. So
Okay,
2027. I think that's feasible because I know they're already working on it.
they're already working on it. So what I'm saying is that's already in that life cycle, and they're working on that game.
Hmm.
So Square Enix is going to work on that game to meet this generation's console specs, and then at the same time working on whatever the next generation's console specs
Hmm.
are. And then so that I feel like 2028 is too soon when you have console makers discussing a refresh. So then not only do you have to meet this generation's console specs, in a year or two, you have a refresh. And so they got to meet those specs while still trying to meet the downgraded regular specs that they have. Oh, and they still got to meet the Xbox Series S and PlayStation 4. Like, I
Well,
don't see that being.
I feel like we're done with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Do you think
I
so?
think so. I feel like unless it's a big game that's like annualized, like probably a Call of Duty or a Madden, I feel like most people are done with PS4 and Xbox One. I think.
I don't see this. I would agree with you,
Hmm.
but that's 100 million people just on the PS4 side.
True.
That's 100 million people. And I just don't see a company just throwing that customer base away and saying, we're just going to focus on this. Because here's the thing, even though they've sold all of these PlayStation 5s and all these Xboxes, how many of those consoles do they have in hand? Because that's the one thing we have not really talked about in the gaming world. Scalpers, eBay sales, and how many people are actually playing these games and have these consoles.
Hmm.
I would love to see a breakdown of those numbers because the PlayStation 5 has sold gangbusters. It's great, but how many people are actually playing the consoles? How many people actually own those consoles? So that's my question. And again, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I was wrong about Cyberpunk. I wear that wrongness on my sleeve, where my kid wipes snot on me on this shoulder. Um, but I just don't see them in 2028. Now maybe they announce something 2027, 2028, and say, hey, it's a year out. But I feel like COVID stifled because a lot of these games that are coming out now should have already come out.
Sure. That's true.
We've talked about that. And every month a new game is like announced or like this. And this is another thing. We've seen a lot of games get pushed back
Hmm.
to another year that were supposed to come out this year.
I think one thing we didn't talk about with this, whatever this next gen console, and I'm reading the line is now, it's supposedly a next generation hybrid game platform,
Mhm.
which I don't really know what that means and what the hybrid
It
means. I mean, I know it goes to more digital stuff, but that's just, I guess that's
it
just
means
more proof that we're getting away from physical.
it means we're not just a gaming console. We're going to be an everything console. We're going to be your AI. We're going to be your music player. We're going to be your Bluetooth speaker. We're going to be your hub for apps. We're going to be all of the things that you need.
Hmm.
We're going to be connected to your smart TV. I just feel like we're getting away from actual gaming consoles and trying to make this thing more palpable to people to buy who aren't just gamers, and that gaming is a secondary thing of this console.
Hmm. I don't see that happening. Like,
I mean,
I mean, I
Microsoft.
think they're
You
I
say
think
that,
it's
but
going to
keep
do all
in
that
mind,
stuff, but I don't think they're ever going to say it's a secondary thing of the console.
I don't want to say they're going to say it's a secondary thing, but I think they're going to hype up all the other stuff, and that gaming is here, and all that other stuff is going to start creeping up that you get to do with this console.
Nah, because
And
I
I
think
think
they
because
tried
here's the
that
thing,
before and it didn't work.
it didn't work because the market wasn't ready for it.
Hmm.
They ready for it now because again, go back and look at that picture. That thing looks like an Echo.
Yeah.
scroll up, and when we post this, we should link this article. Go look at this thing. Looks like an Echo or Febreze thing plug-in.
Wow, not a Febreze.
Looking at it right now, it looks like somebody painted a Febreze plug-in, and it's got that little hole at the bottom underneath that Microsoft, which is probably a microphone.
Hmm.
Yeah. They keep talking about the design. Oh, look at it. Giving our fans more to love. Beautiful, innovative new design. Mm-mm. Buddy, I know a next gen Bluetooth speaker when I see one
Hmm.
that my kids will want to talk to. Alexa, play Bruno Mars. I know it when I see it. You're not gonna trick me.
Fair enough. Um,
Next.
Next one. This is fun, and this is I think people kind of took this and just ran with it. Phil Spencer really wants Microsoft to buy Nintendo. Sure, why not? We know Microsoft was trying to buy everybody, so why not try to buy Nintendo? Will it
I
ever
want to date
happen?
Sofia
No.
Vergara.
You,
I want to date Sofia
you
Vergara.
can put it out in the ether. Why not?
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, it's great. Phil Spencer said, "I want to." You like, hey, buddy, before you buy Nintendo, how about you fix that first party title problem you got?
Yeah, I mean this email. Let's see. Well, I'll read some of this. During the trial, it was revealed that Microsoft had its eyes on 100 developers. Microsoft considered acquiring at one point before narrowing it down to 8 studios, including Sega, Square Enix, and Zynga. However, there's another studio Xbox was eyeing Nintendo. An email from August 2020 revealed that Spencer was enthusiastic about acquiring the studio behind beloved video game franchises such as Mario and The Legend of Zelda. Spencer noted in the email that the acquisition would be a career moment if it happened. The email also revealed that Spencer was interested in acquiring Valve and Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, the latter of which would mean Xbox would own developers such as NetherRealm and Rocksteady. Um, yeah, I feel like Bill was just saying he'd like to own anybody and anybody and everybody that he could. I Going back to the whole thing of Nintendo probably not letting Game Pass be on their system because they want to be in their silos. I also don't see Nintendo ever selling to Microsoft willingly for sure.
Yeah, that ain't
Nintendo's a
happening.
very proud company. They're not going to sell. I mean, they would be more likely probably to sell to Sony, as they're both Japanese, than Microsoft, I would think. And I don't see that happening
Yeah,
either.
it is. Mm-mm.
Um,
But I would say it's a pipe dream. IGN. I watched one of their. I don't think it was PlayStation. It might have been Next Console Watch, which and we're using IGN's article, and I have raged against IGN for their lack of nuance when it comes to the physical versus digital thing. But they did a very good job about talking about this, and they had a hard time finding an American company that has bought a Japanese company in this way. And they on their channel they talked about the fact that when this was brought up, they were kind of laughed out of the room.
mhm.
And yes, I understand that Nintendo, as far as market share, is not anywhere close to the size than Microsoft is. But I would guarantee Nintendo would fight tooth and nail an acquisition from a company like Microsoft. I would wager Microsoft trying to buy Nintendo would be like a grown man who is a bodybuilder and an MMA fighter and weightlifter who could probably kill another human with his bare hands, trying to pick up a honey badger and trying to put it in a sack. That is the equivalent of Microsoft trying to buy Nintendo. Oh, you're bigger and stronger than them. Let me see you get it in that sack.
Okay, fair enough.
Because let me tell you right now, I'd watch that. I'd watch both of those things. I would watch Microsoft trying to buy Nintendo, and I would watch a grown man trying to pick up a honey badger.
All right. Um, let's move on. They're talking about a new controller. That's cool. New hardware. Essentially, I mean, this kind of goes to
Did
the
you?
idea. What's
Oh,
up?
time out. Did you buy the Starfield controller, or did you just buy the watch?
Not about the controller.
You bought the
Mhm,
controller.
yeah.
Okay.
Have I opened it? Nope.
I That was my
Just
next
sitting in
question.
packaging. Um,
Mhm.
let's see.
Here's get to the next one because the next one is what I really um
The honest opinion thing.
nah, I don't care about that shit.
Oh, okay.
Uh
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
I mean, that was the next one. Sounded like the email chain. Microsoft scrambling to fill
Mhm.
gaps.
Yep.
Yeah, an email
What did you
chain.
take from this?
Uh, I think we kind of already knew that. Honestly, they just put it because they have been saying forever when people ask where the games they're coming, like they would acknowledge, hey, they're coming, but we don't have them yet. I never heard them say,
Mhm.
oh, there's so many great things for you to play. I feel like they acknowledged it. So to me, when this came out, I wasn't like, oh, we finally caught them. I think it just kind of gave proof to that they were trying to fill the holes. So it was just to me, it wasn't a big shock. It's like, yeah, we knew they had holes.
See, I took it as that. I did. I took it as, see, I like they finally admitted. Like I felt like, you know what I felt like?
Was that
How much football do you watch?
not? I mean, some.
Okay, so this is what I looked at it. I'm gonna compare it, and you tell me if you feel the same way because I don't know how much football you watch. To me, this seemed like Phil Spencer had been saying the games are coming, believe in us, yada yada yada. And and everybody was like, hey man, you ain't got no games on this Game Pass enough or first party games to make us say that this is something that's going to maintain for the long term. I liken this to when Robert Sala, who is the coach of the New York Jets, had to go out for these press conferences after Aaron Rodgers went down and Zach Wilson is their quarterback
Who's trash?
and Robert Sala and had to go out and keep saying, this is our guy. He's the best chance for us to win these games. And I felt like Robert Sala was Phil Spencer when he was like, "Hey man, it's coming. We're it. This is the right now. This is the best chance we got to win." Knowing they had all this shit they needed to do because when you go back and look at what they were willing to do,
Hmm.
oh, because here's so an email chain between senior Xbox executives, excluding Spencer, Matt Booty, and Sarah Bond, reveal how much Microsoft was scrambling to find games. And when you look at, so let's click on the link where it says an email chain. Okay, hold on, let's go down. Right now, Stuart responds with a roadmap. So I clicked on the link. Stewart responds with a roadmap of third-party releases accurate as of May 2022 that includes a number of games that were at a time set to launch across the four quarters of 2023 financial year. Of note, here is mention of Resident Evil Revelations for Q2. This is perhaps a code name for Resident Evil 4 Remake, which launched in 2023. Also slated for Q2 are BioWare's Dragon Age 4, Ubisoft's Skull and Bones, which have yet to come out. They were willing to pay serious amounts of money to get these games.
Hmm.
This email also reveals the astonishing amount of money Microsoft is spending securing these day and date deals. Microsoft estimated it would cost $5 million to secure Baldur's Gate 3, $35 million to snag Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga for Game Pass, $50 million for Dying Light 2, $100 million for Assassin's Creed Rift, $250 million for Rocksteady's Suicide Squad, and an eye-watering $300 million for Jedi Survivor. And all the while, Phil Spencer's up there like, hey man, it's coming. And to me, this email chain shows once again, you cannot believe shit that comes out of these people's mouth. And friend of the show, Phil Spencer, Uncle Phil, as some people like to call. I understand what his job is. He has to walk that thin line of corporate speak, explaining to the masses, but they didn't have anything. And
Hmm.
if you're willing to spend, and here's the thing, $300 million for Respawn's Jedi Survivor. For $300 million, you could have made your own Star Wars game. But the thing is, they didn't have $300 million to spend for 5 years in development for a game. They needed that game now to
Hmm.
sell these consoles.
Hmm.
And that's why they spent $100 billion. And I think that gets lost in a lot of this, that they were willing to
And when you
spend.
say 100 billion, you mean for like all their acquisitions, not just Activision
Mhm.
Blizzard. Yeah. Okay.
Because Activision Blizzard is 69 billion. I'm talking ZeniMax. I'm talking who else did they buy? Because
They
that's
bought a
just
bunch of different studios before
yeah.
that.
I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but that's 80 million. That's 80 billion right there.
Right.
That's more than the NFC is worth. So I say all of that, and that's why I bring up this email chain. I think is big because it shows how desperate they were, and it explains this spending spree of billions of dollars because they could not plug that first party hole.
Hmm.
They and here's another thing. It only took $5 million to secure Baldur's Gate 3.
Well,
And they
that
and
no,
they
no.
and
What that email was saying, that's what they think they would have to spend.
but here's the thing. And what did they call Baldur's Gate 3?
Second gen Stadia game or something like that,
Second
or second
run
rate.
Stadia PC RPG.
Right.
And Baldur's Gate is going to be in the contention for game of the year.
Sure. Yeah.
And also Baldur's Gate is going to put every other RPG studio on notice that this is how you make an RPG, a next gen game, and this is how you do in-depth storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, their game is already getting way more praise than Baldur's Gate 3 is getting way more praise than Starfield did.
Boom, you said it,
So,
not me.
yeah.
So I love the fact that that email, because this goes back to this argument we've had in previous videos. I don't want, you know what, argument's a strong word. The discussion that we've had going back and forth, where I've been like, as much as I like Microsoft, they do not have the titles that make me say I'm going to buy this console. And
Sure.
Starfield is one of the few, because you talked about Halo Infinite was just it was okay.
Yeah.
We don't have a Gears of War 6 announced. Um, what else do they have that's going to make you buy that console? For me, Starfield is one of those games.
Hmm.
Even out of everything that they talked about, I still want to buy an Xbox for Starfield. But outside of that, I don't. There's nothing else that makes me say I have to own an Xbox. And to me, this email basically proves that for me. I don't know if it proves it for other people, but for me, it proved it.
Hmm. Um, these other ones are kind of whatever. They talk about why Xbox really underestimated Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, we know.
Mhm.
Everybody underestimated because then the people of Larry and Cedos, they were like, yeah, everybody kind of underestimated us.
Yeah.
They even said they underestimated. They didn't realize how popular it was going to be. So yeah, we got
Mhm.
that.
I love how you skipped over Red Dead Redemption 2 might get a next gen update, and the FTC blames Microsoft for the leaks.
I'm going. I was going back up.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
because
ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
because like I'm saying, like I'm looking over these, like they're kind of whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, we could talk about them. FTC blames Microsoft for the leaks. They said Microsoft
Um,
uploaded the folders. All right, cool.
what I'm trying to figure out is how do you guys keep stepping on this rake? Like, how does a company the size of Microsoft keep making this mistake?
I mean, a big company got holes in it.
True, but I guess after the last bunch of leaks, I feel like shouldn't they get a little tighter, like with that
See,
black?
this is what I don't understand. It seemed like, and I don't know the technical process of how this works, but it was through like what Adobe Acrobat Reader or whatever that people were able, like they had patched out some of it, but if the way you downloaded it, you could see the full document or something. Is that how it was? I don't
I
exactly
don't
know how that works.
Bro, I'm still learning Adobe Acrobat Reader because I'm trying to figure out how I can look at redacted documents myself.
That's what I'm saying. I
Because
mean,
you know
people
where
don't
I
know.
work. I'm trying. Hey, you know where I work. I'm looking at everything.
Man, y'all better shred. They better shred some papers over there.
Hey man, Microsoft needs to start shredding some
That's
papers.
just yeah. Um,
I'm gonna send Phil Spencer an email. Hey man, you want to just start shredding stuff? They Microsoft should have a burn pile.
Fantastic. What was the other? Red Dead Redemption 2 might get a next gen update. I don't care.
Really?
I'm not a big fan of a game, a next gen update from just a previous generation ago. Like what? I
Wow.
mean, what's the point?
No, I'm only saying it's because it's you, and as much of as big of a Red Dead Redemption fan you are, and as big as a Nintendo fan you are, that you're saying this.
I don't feel like that's a big thing.
It to me it is because you have championed Red Dead Redemption 2
Yeah, I think it's a
for
great game.
years, and f- I would have thought you'd have been like, remake it so more people can play it on the next gen console. And you have been a very big proponent of, even though you say it is not a good financial expense, you have bought every, I don't know, I don't want to say every iteration. You're in the Nintendo world and you have bought games and you've talked about buying games that have come out previously that you own a version, an older version. And so
Those were
I
Nintendo
just,
games, though.
oh, I didn't expect that shot
No,
across
yeah,
the
I'm just saying.
bow.
I don't have multiple versions of other things that aren't Nintendo games.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking now around at different piles of games I got here around my house.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything like that. And the
Okay.
biggest thing for me is if I were to buy a game again, it would probably need to be at least not the next generation, maybe the next generation after that. Like I don't
Okay.
know what you're going to do to make this look fancier. I guess you cut down on load times. I mean, I'm kind okay, maybe you cut down on load times, but are you going to charge $70 for this game? Probably.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't. I was like, you're all you're
Because
doing is
hey,
cutting down on load times.
because they did it with Last of Us on the PS5.
Yeah.
They did it for the Last of Us PS5,
Now,
and
The
we
Last of
just
Us Part One PS5 looks way better than the PS3 version that came out.
true.
I
But
get
does
that.
it look better? Does it look better than the PS4 version?
Yeah,
Like
it
how
does.
much
It
better?
does.
How much better the PS4 version does it look? Because here's my thing: I own every copy of that game,
Okay.
and my dumbass, when it goes on sale, will buy the PS5 version. I will because I love that game, and this is why I said I'm shocked because you convinced me through years of heckling, trolling, to get some of these updated versions of games. Because remember I remember how much against Dead Space I was.
Yeah, but that's from like 3 generations ago.
Yeah, but I was still was like that just came out not too long ago. We don't need one. I can still play my PS3 version. And man, let me tell you, I'm a sucker for that game, and I loved every minute of it.
Hmm.
And it made me a believer to the point where I was like, "Damn, I gotta buy The Last of Us on PS5." That's how good Dead Space was. That I literally looked and I was like, "Okay, $50 isn't that bad."
Hmm. Yeah, to me, for me to buy a remake of a game, it needs to be not just the next console version, but like maybe 2 console versions ahead or something. And then like we can go back to Final Fantasy VII. How I really didn't care for Final, and this is a wild story. I really didn't care about Final Fantasy VII when it came out on PlayStation. Final Fantasy
You
VI is still my favorite Final Fantasy over seven.
man, the way you
Um,
talked about Seven, it like it owed you money.
well, that's partly just to get a rise out of people on the internet. I don't hate it that much. It was just fun to say that. But again, I just didn't get
Oh,
into it. Um, and I think because I couldn't figure out how to do some of the other like 100% stuff. It just wasn't working out for me, so that kind of frustrated me. Um,
mhm.
but having played remake, I was like, man, this is great. And now I'm actually going back and playing Final Fantasy VII, the PlayStation version, right now, enjoying my time with it because they've done a lot of quality of life improvements to it, like sped up the game speed and the overall menu speed and everything, which has been nice. Um, so I say all that to say a remake can do a lot to make somebody be like, oh, let me go back and look at the original again and find a new love for it. But
Yeah.
if the thing just came out on PlayStation 4, I don't need it to come out on PS5. I was like, it's whatever.
Okay, just checking. I
Because it looked
really.
so good before. I don't know. Because to me, that's almost like, and this people in chat, y'all let me know. Spider Man for PS4 compared to the upgraded Spider Man PS5. I don't know how much of a difference it is. I'm sure it
Oh,
is a difference.
there is a so I will say there's a huge difference just from Spider-Man PS4 to the Miles Morales PS5. There's a huge difference in just the way it plays, just the way the movements are, the visuals. I would say that that is a huge upgrade because I
Okay.
have both. I have
Okay.
the PS4 version and I have the Miles Morales PS5 version.
Okay.
And because I'm going to play Miles Morales for Christmas again when Christmas comes around. But yeah, it's There is to me there, and maybe it's just because I am biased in it. I just noticed a big difference.
Okay.
So, but I could be wrong. Again, I've used this platform to admit my faults. I've been wrong before. So what else we got? We did.
Uh,
We talked
we
about
did.
Xbox Series S is more popular than we expected.
Mhm. I feel like we hit everything. Phil Spencer acknowledges the leaks. Yeah, he said that. I think this is interesting. He acknowledged and he also said this stuff is like 2 to 3 years old at this point from when that happened. So a lot of the stuff could have changed. So that could go to your whole thing of maybe 2028 isn't going to be it anymore. Maybe in
Um,
2020 he thought that they were going to do 2028. Now maybe it's not going to be 2028 for the new console.
I would. I feel like he has to say that only because there's no way for you to say these leaks didn't happen. Like, there's no way for him to like, nah, what leaks? What you talking about? Like, don't get me wrong. I think certain companies would have done that. Would have just said like that shit ain't never happened. But I think even though we have ridiculed Phil Spencer in this video, friend of the show, um,
You have, I haven't. I'll never talk bad about Uncle Phil.
we talked about bad about Uncle Phil. Um, I feel like he has been very upfront with a lot of things, and I think the type of CEO that he is, he wasn't going to come out there and be like, "Nah, that shit ain't happen." What are you talking about? Like, I don't think he would have gaslit us,
Hmm.
and I feel like he's been very upfront with as much as he could be with certain things.
Sure.
Um, so going forward, I'd like to see where Microsoft is on their first party titles. I'd like to see where they are with this next gen refresh. Again, I to recap everything, I have made it known how I feel about digital only, and I feel like physical media should needs to be preserved. And I feel like for those people who are like digital only, then why do we have libraries? Why do we still have physical copies of books? Why is physical music still being sold? And I feel like part of the reasons, and we hadn't even gotten into this, what happens when we go to a digital only marketplace, game flies out of business. How does
Is
GameStop
GameFly
survive?
still around?
Yeah, GameFly's still around.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, GameFly's still around.
Okay.
Um, GameStop is whoo.
I
And
mean, GameStop been circling the drain for a minute though.
here's the thing, and I know a lot of people are like GameStop sucks, all this other stuff, and I understand where you're coming from when you live in a huge metropolitan area where you have all these opportunities to buy different video games, but we are in South Carolina. GameStop for a lot of these communities are the only place to go in to buy video games. Unless you have a Walmart or a Target or a Best Buy, for a lot of these communities, and with my new job in um, at South Carolina Educational Television, perfect example. I'll keep it short. We just went to Greenwood, South Carolina. You can look it up. We recorded a concert with Patrick Davis, singer songwriters concert. He's going to different places all over South Carolina and dipping a little bit into Georgia, performing songs. We were in Greenwood. There was a GameStop there. There was a Walmart there. That's it. I couldn't find a secondhand video game store. I looked.
Hmm.
Um, there was a Target in Easley, South Carolina, which is like 40 miles away. For these remote places, GameStop is the place where they can get these things. And getting rid of GameStop for community does kill the video game market, especially when you don't have high speed internet there.
Hmm.
And that's just one place. And Greenwood actually is a decent little community. It's up and coming, but there are so many other places like Greenwood or these one gas station towns that I'm going to, and I'm looking around and I'm like, they got to go 10, 20 miles just to get to a grocery store. Do you think high speed internet is something that they have here? And so that's where I come down when it comes to this digital only future that these people have in store for us. And I'm off my soapbox. I apologize.
There we go. Like, comment, and subscribe to get more of Leroy's soapboxes. Help put that food on our table so we can do more of these soapboxes. But
I'm still buying comic books. I'm still buying vinyl records.
there you
Comic books,
go.
sir. I
Comic
still
books.
every Wednesday.
Great. That'll do it for us, y'all. We will put this up and we will put up more videos in the future, more video reactions. I'm sure there's trailers we haven't done that we'll probably get to sooner or later. I don't know. Yes, no.
I watched
There,
some things.
there we go. Fantastic.
Well, I watched the things you didn't want to watch. So, like,
Okay, fair enough.
there's a couple of horror trailers that came out. I was like, oh, I'll watch this.
You should react to them yourself.
Nah, man. I just want to watch the movies.
All right.
No one will save you. Is I'm gonna watch that. It's a new movie that dropped on Hulu. I think it may be the next Prey.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Folks, you know where to find us. YouTube, We Trying channel, Nerded by Nature Productions, Facebook, Nerded by Nature. We're slowly changing all of our branding to a Nerded by Nature to get that uh, before people take it from us. Hopefully, they're not going to take it from us. Y'all don't let
they
them take
better
it from us.
not.
Yeah,
They better not. I'm
they
in a
better not.
fighting mood.
He's in a fighting mood. With that, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to know when we put up more videos. I think that's it. We out. Peace.
Peace.